First of all, it's important to know what HTML is. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and that's the language that web browsers read to know what to display on the screen to you. At its basic format, an HTML file is just a simple text file, something you would do in Notepad or TextEdit. It's nothing fancy, it's not a word processing document, it's much more simple than that. And the way that it works is that you use tags to indicate how you want text to show. For instance, if you use the tag H1, and I know it's a tag because it has the less than, greater than symbol around it, if you use the tag H1 and then place some text there and then end it with /\H1, that will tell the web browser to display that text in header 1 format, or a large header format. So in this day of WYSIWYG editors, what you see is what you get editors, and template-driven sites, why in the world would we even bother to learn coding? Well, one reason I feel strongly about is that technology leaders should know how the web works. Even if you don't know web coding to the point where you could create your own website, you need to know what's going on underneath the hood. Secondly, it's important to be able to troubleshoot when something's not showing up quite right, that you want to go in and be able to figure out what's wrong and fix it. Sometimes you just want to modify something, like modify how large an image appears or how large a video appears, and so knowing what code to look for is important in doing that. And then adding code such as embedding videos and being able to do that and putting it in the place in the code that you want it to go. So you have to be able to read the code a little bit. We're not going to get into heavy coding at all. We're just going to cover the very basics, but I hope enough of the basics to get you to a point where you can do these sorts of things. So let's first talk about a web page structure. There are several elements that go into a web page. Notice that I have different tags here: HTML, head, title, close title, and again the close title or end title is indicated by that backslash in front of the word title, end head, body, close body, and close HTML. So notice that these two are linked together. Everything else is what we call nested inside. A web page begins with HTML and ends with /HTML. So you've got to have those two tags or your web browser will not know it's a web page. Then there are two pieces within there. There's the head and there's the body. And in the head, the title piece, and there's some other information that goes there that we won't bother to get into, but there's certain pieces of information that goes into the head element. The body element is where the bulk of your work and your bulk of your text is going to go. Most everything is within the body, but notice that head starts and closes and the body starts and closes, and both of those are within the HTML tags. And I'm highlighting here those backslashes again to indicate that those are the end or the close tags for those various tags. So a few HTML codes to get us started. I am linking in Georgia View two different lists of web codes, so I would encourage you to print those out and have those by your side as we go through this. We're getting ready to go through an exercise, and it might be helpful to have those in paper format with you. But just to give you an overview of some of the basic HTML codes that you see a lot of, you see the H1 /H1 tags. That's for a large heading. Those numbers go from 1 to 6, so you can have H2, H3, H4. It's just like styles in Word, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, with heading 1 being the largest and heading 6 being the smallest heading. If you have B tags on either side of text, that will bold the text. If you have I tags on either side of the text, that will italicize the text. If you want bold and italic, you need to nest those. In other words, put the bold around the text and then the italic around the bold, or vice versa. What you do not want is overlapping tags. That the web browser will get confused with that. P is for paragraph. BR tag is for break, which is just like a shift carriage return. It just moves the cursor down to the next line. HR is for those horizontal rules or those lines that you see, kind of shaded lines that you see across web pages. That's a horizontal rule. And then some of our favorite things, bullets and numbers. Bullets are called an unordered list, and that's designated by the tag UL and closed loop UL. And unordered list, OL and close OL. And then for each item that's within each of those lists, those are surrounded by LI tags, or list element tags. Actually, that should be list item tags. That's what the I stands for. So what I want you to do is a little exercise. I'm giving you some HTML code, and I want to see if you feel like you can draw out what that's going to do and what that's going to look like. So pause the video on this screen, and then this is where having the list of codes may be helpful to you, although we've covered all of these codes just previously. And I want you to see if you can figure out what this would look like on a screen. So pause this video right now, sketch that out on a sheet of scratch paper, and then come back to this video to see how you did. Welcome back. So let's see how you did. If you took this code and interpreted it correctly, you should have come up with something that looks like this. Take a look at that for a second. Here's the code we had. So we started off just by creating the web page, starting it off with HTML head. There's no title in this case. And then I threw a little bit of a curveball to you. I gave you an H1, but I aligned it centered, so hopefully you caught that. And that's a heading 1 tag. Then there's a break. Welcome to this course. I think you'll find it fun. Another couple of breaks, so that gives us the space in between. In this course we will break. And then an unordered list, which are the bulleted lists, and each of those LI items being a separate bullet. That ends, there's some more space, and then welcome to iText 7445 in italics. Another set of tabs that's important for web designers are the table tags. We use these an awful lot to actually just organize a page underneath where you don't see it. So let's talk about those tags. Table and closed table are the tags that begin and end a table. TR and closed TR stands for beginning and ending a table row. And TD and /TD stands for table data, which basically means a table cell. So you have the table itself, you have rows in the table, and you have cells in the table. And a typical table will look like the set on the bottom. Now this will create a 1-row, 2-column table, and I know that because there's only one pair of TR tags, but there are 2 pairs of TD tags. So the TD are nested within the TR, so notice that. Okay, so all the TD tags for that row are listed within that row, and all of those are nested within the table tags. Okay, so table, TR, TD, three items that used together in various ways really can help you organize a web page and organize your information. Let's see how you do. I'm adding this text into the page that we just did, just above the welcome to iText 7445 in italics down at the bottom. And so pause your screen again and see if you could sketch out what you think this table would look like. And when you think you're done, come back and check. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. So if you interpreted the table correctly, it should look something like this. So take a look at that. We have a 3-column, 4-row table with nothing very exciting in the table cells, but that's all right for this example. Here's the code that we had. And again, I could tell that it was a 4-row table because there are 4 sets of TR and closed TR tags. And within each of those, there are TD tags. There are 3 sets of TD tags, so each row has 3 columns in it. You can do some manipulation of that by kind of merging columns, I guess, but we won't go into that here. But if you see call span equals a certain number, that's basically merging cells together, like you would in Word. Notice the table, something in the table tag at the very, very top. Everything is text aligned left. The width is 100%, which means it fills up the width of the screen. You can change that percentage-wise. You can change it to 50% and it would fill up half the screen. You can change it to specific number of pixels if you really wanted to. Percentages are usually better to use there. Notice that there's a border equals 1. And the interpretation of that is that there's a 1 pixel border around the entire table. Cell padding and cell spacing gives you exactly what you think it does. It pads the cells a little bit and spaces the cells from one another. Let's talk about that border for a second, because that's kind of important. If you wanted to just use a table to organize your information but you didn't want the border to show, then you would set that border to 0. Border equals 0 means that there's a table there, but it won't show up on the web page. So that's something that you can use to help organize your information. Alright, so that's our example for table. So there are some other tags you need to know that are common. One is the ahref tag. That is links out to external sites. It's also, you use the ahref tag to link to local files if you're wanting to, say, download a PDF file or something like that. The http:// there tells it to go out to the world and find www.cnn.com. In this instance, because in between that reference and the close A tag at the end, notice that CNN is listed there. That's going to be your hyperlink. So whatever is in between that open tag, open A tag, and that close A tag is your link. The other thing that's common are images, and the tags there is an image source tag. Notice that there's no end on that one. It's just referencing the image itself, and so what this does is show an image named texas.gif. Now it's important that that image be located in a certain spot, and we'll learn more about that a little bit later in the course. But this indicates that right next to my HTML file there is a GIF image called texas.gif, and it would show it on the screen.